Okay. Good day, everyone. How is your day? I hope you are doing well and safe. So today I will discuss Quarter 1, Module 2, identifying the problem and asking the question. But before we proceed to our discussion, I would like to introduce myself properly. Okay, so hello, I am Wenzel May Felipe. Just call me Mom Wenzel. I am a fourth year college taking Bachelor of Secondary, major in English in TMCC. I am 21 years old. Some of you are probably just my age or even older than me, but all is well. So what else? I think that is all for now. Okay, so let's proceed. All right. So our module for this week deals with identifying the inquiry and stating the problem. So we have 7 lessons. These are, as you can see on your screen, background of the problem, conceptual framework, research hypothesis for quantitative research, statement of the problem, importance of the study, and scope and limitation of the study, and mm, last but not the least, definition of terms. Right. Are you guys familiar with this? Okay, so first, we have the background of the problem. All right. So, background of the problem. So, the background of the study will deliberate your statement of the problem, rationale, and research questions. It links the introduction to your research and guarantees a logical flow of ideas. So, background of the problem, it helps readers understand and comprehend your reasons and explanation for conducting the study. So, the background of your study will provide context to the information discussed throughout your research process. The background information of your research may include both critical and relevant studies. So, it would be best not to rush to collect ideas about your topic. First, spend time gathering background information on the problem that spark your research topic. But do you know what is the best possible way to get information? That is to read. Yeah. So you have to read and read and read some more about your topic. So expose yourself to the problem's concept and learn more about them to support your research. Okay? So so problem statements or background of the study have 3 elements. So it says here, the problem itself stated clearly and with enough contextual detail to establish why it is important. The method of solving the problem, often stated as a claim or a working thesis. And then the purpose, statement of objectives and scope of document the writer is preparing. So, following these different elements in writing statements of the problem helps you create a good topic for your research. Okay, so a research problem. A research problem is a statement about an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature, in theory, or in practice that points to the need for meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. It is typically posed in the form of a question. So, the ultimate purpose of the research is not only to offer new methods of analyzing things, people, events, um, but also to uncover and introduce new practices, tactics, and procedures for problem solving. So the word problem, it raises the concerns and it drives the researcher, which is you, to work hard to find a solution. When you decide to do the research, you start with a problem, right? And that problem will lead you to a specific topic to focus on. So, one, right? So, here is the sample of the background of the study. So, sample background of the study. Grade 11 students level of awareness on the 3R's method in utilizing non-biodegradable waste in LaSalle University. So, um, the sample of the background of the study, the information or the content in the background of the study is about the problem that triggered the research topic, which is the awareness of the 3R's method. So that is the content of your background of the study. Background of the study, right? Okay, so next we have conceptual framework. Okay, so a conceptual framework is an analytical tool with several variations and contexts that can be applied in different categories of work where an overall picture is needed to come up with the desired goal. So, um, researchers create and generate theoretical and conceptual framework that comprise a philosophical and methodological model to help design their work. So, the theoretical the theoretical and conceptual framework give proof of academic standards and methods. So, it validates the study's credibility or originality. So, it is um what do we call this? The authenticity of your work. So this is also advice and explanation and clarification of why the study is important and how the researcher intends to fill the gap in the literature. So of course, our research paper, it needs to have the validity, right? So we don't copy other people's researchers. We don't copy other people's research, but we can use them as a guide and supporting ideas. So how to create a conceptual framework? So first, we have to conduct a literature review. So before you can have your research, you need to understand and comprehend what research has already been conducted on your topic of interest and curiosity. So a conceptual framework functions similarly to a recipe or a blueprint. It outlines how you intend to conduct the research for your thesis, but it goes beyond that by getting your work within the great field of a study. So there are so first it says here you conduct a literature review, right? So there are past studies regarding your topic, which indicates that someone else has done research similar to yours. So you find these studies and do a literature review. A literature review can assist you in refining your key argument or idea. And this will also help you to arrange your work within the context of your broader topic of study. Your framework should offer relevant research and show how your study will contribute to the advancement of the topic. Okay? So, next is create a flowchart. Uh, so, conceptual frameworks are frequently visual and allow those reading the framework to understand the course of your research. So, you may present this in any style that makes sense for your work, such as a flowchart or a mind gap or a diagram. So, every aspect of your research should highlight the variables that influence it. But then you can also write a narrative, right? So that is not always the case. You can still present the same information by writing a narrative. It is just what suits your topic best. So it's up to you. So you know your topic best. So what is the best way to understand your research framework? Okay? So you can always it says here You can always present the same information and evidence by writing a narrative. Your narrative should recap the variables and explain and enlighten the basic methodology for your research. All right. So, however, if you include a diagram in your conceptual framework, a narrative writing of a narrative, it explain also the features. So, when you have a flow chart, it also has a narrative to explain the features. To create a visual order of information, use bolded headers to divide portions of your narrative. And then return and revise. So, as you begin your research, you may discover that some aspects of your conceptual frameworks are no longer needed. So, as long as your research is not entirely done, expect a lot of changes in your work. So as your research progress, there is always a changes. So expect that you would do a lot of revision. So you should return to your framework and revise it if necessary. So look at this one. So this is the sample schematic diagram, right? So which shows the independent and dependent variables. As you can see, it also has a narrative that explain the features. So there are two types of variables. So as you can see, we have independent and dependent variables. So what are the difference? So independent variables are the one you change for your experiment. In contrast, the dependent variables are the ones you can only observe. Okay. So next, we have a research hypothesis, quantitative research for quantitative research. So research hypothesis is vital to all research, whether qualitative or quantitative, exploratory or explanatory. Research hypothesis is a statement of expectation or prediction that will be tested by research itself. The hypothesis in your study, you are predicting the relationship between two variables. So, a research hypothesis is a distinct, clear and uh, clear it is likely the result of a scientific research study. So, um, for example, um, you may have noticed that when you eat shrimp, your body reacts. Okay, you have the reactions. Your body has a reaction on that shrimp. So your hypothesis might be, I have a shrimp allergy, or I am allergic to shrimp. Do you get that one? So another example is, you have noticed that you retain your lesson when you take notes. So your hypothesis might be, lesson retained in our memory and we learn better when we jot down notes during class. From there, you can begin experiments to test your hypothesis. So in these examples that I gave, you might set aside two learning styles. One which you jot down notes. The one is when you take notes, and the other one is which you don't. Then, to see the differences, note the finding or results. So, in your hypothesis, that's your hypothesis. What do you call this? The lesson retained in our memory, and we learn better when we jot down notes during class. So, you do the experiments by observing yourself, right? Observing yourself or observing someone else in their learning style. Do you get that, guys? Okay, so next, you must obtain the teacher's approval of your hypothesis as well as any modification to your hypothesis before proceeding with any work on the topic. So your teacher will guide you. So I will guide you, and also Sir Josh will guide you. So do not hesitate to ask your question. So you will be expressing your hypothesis in three ways: as a, as a one sentence hypothesis, as a research question, as a title for your paper. No, that's the three. So your hypothesis will be part of your research proposal. So this is the example. Ayan. So sample and research hypothesis. Example, question: does taking aspirin every day reduce the chance of having a heart attack? So your null hypothesis, taking aspirin daily does not affect heart attack risk. So there are different types of hypotheses, depending on the nature of your research and what you expect to find, of course. So in our example, we have the null hypothesis, which suggests that there is no relationship between variables. Okay, so let's move on. Statement of the problem. Okay, so writing a problem statement can help the researcher put the topic in context and have a deeper understanding of its significance. So a problem statement may be written in several paragraphs or in several sentences incorporated in the introduction. So to simplify, um, the problem statement identifies the problem you want to solve. Okay, so a problem statement is a statement used in research that defines the problem addressed by a study. So the problem statement explains the problem you want to find the solution or address or solve. So just that. So so problem statement should address the relevance of the research. Why is it important to resolve the problem? So you may start with the following phrases. The aim of this study is to determine what? So this project aims to explore what? I aim to investigate what? Okay? So, and next we have importance of the study, right? So, the importance of the study provides information to the reader on how the study will contribute, what the study will contribute, and who will benefit from it. So, I think this is the easiest part. You will just identify who are the beneficiaries of your research and its benefit to them. Like on the sample given here. So who would probably um, the beneficiaries? So uh, that would be your teachers. That would probably be your teachers, the students, administrators, the people involved in your research, and the researchers, the other researchers. Okay, so it's just that. You will just identify who are the beneficiaries of your research and its benefits to them. So next, scope and limitation of the study. The scope and the limitation of the study set borders and limitation of the problem inquiry and narrow down the scope of the inquiry. So, ayan. So here. What is the purpose of the limitation of the study? The purpose of the limitation of the study is to delimit by geographic location, age, sex, population, traits, population size, or other similar aspects. The limitation makes study more manageable and feasible. Part of it sets the constraints or weaknesses of a study which are beyond the control of the researcher. Alright, so broad topic will lead the research nowhere. In your module 2, it tackles the smart characteristic of a good research problem. And what are those? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound, right? So, you determine the extent or limit of your research, the time frame, the limitations, a scope and limitation statements purpose is to provide an outline of what your research will and will not address. So, for example, here, example of the limitation of research. It says here that the study covers only families in Barangay San Jose, Pasig City. So your study could be cover only grade 12 UMS and in PMCHS or grade 12 TVL and in PMCHS. Okay, so last but definitely not the least, definition of terms. So, alright, so glossary of research terms. This glossary is intended to assist you in understanding commonly used terms and concepts when reading, interpreting, and evaluating scholarly research in the social sciences. Types and functions. Conceptual definition refers to the dictionary meaning. Operational definition, the meaning of the concept or terms as used in a particular study. So this provides your readers with an idea of the concept or factors that will be presented throughout your research and contextual information about how those concepts will be used in your study. So this should be clear because this will create confusion or mislead your reader. For example, here is the sample operational definition of terms. In contextual definition, it is the meaning of the word or phrases as in the dictionary. In contrast, operational is how you use that word in your study. For for example, for a simple example, good student in conceptual definition, it means a top student or an intellectual one. Then in operational, the phrase good student was used to define a student that has reached a high score in the survey. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are top students, but they just happen to have a high score in the survey. Do you get that? So that is all for today. If you have a question, do not hesitate to ask. Message me during working hours. But before I end this, I want you to remember this. Um, do not do your research just for compliance. If you do this seriously and are really willing to learn, your college self will thank you in the future. So if you do this just to get through in this subject, where's the learning on that, right? So when the time comes that you will do this again, but in a greater field, and you did not pay attention right now, you will suffer more than you have to suffer. So I hope that you listen because I prepared an activity for this and I will send it to our group chat after this. So that is for today. Thank you and God bless.